When we hear the word discipline, it often sounds harsh, doesn't it? Many people instantly imagine strict rules, military-style routines, or an environment where mistakes are met with punishment. For a lot of parents, discipline has become almost synonymous with penalizing a child whenever they misbehave. But punishment and discipline are not the same thing. For generations, parents assumed they were, and as a result, many children grew up feeling controlled rather than guided. Later, when those same kids become stubborn, disconnected, or rebellious, parents are left wondering what went wrong. The truth is, real discipline isn't about being strict. It's about teaching. It's the process of helping children understand their emotions, learn from their actions, and build the ability to make better choices in the future. And the beautiful thing is, you can teach discipline while still being a warm, loving, and emotionally connected parent. This summary will show you how that's possible. It explores a calmer, more compassionate way to guide children, a way that doesn't rely on fear, threats, or punishment, but on connection, understanding, and the science of how a child's brain develops. Rethinking Discipline. When you're a parent, every day brings new challenges, and one of the biggest is teaching your child discipline. We all want our children to grow up with good habits, but without realizing it, we often switch into autopilot. Instead of responding thoughtfully, we simply react to whatever they do in the moment. Picture this. Your child scribbles on the wall, even though you've told them many times not to. You feel your frustration rise, and before you know it, you're shouting, maybe calling them a bad kid, or grabbing them too roughly. In that moment, your reaction feels automatic, but deep inside, you know this isn't really teaching your child anything except fear or confusion. Real discipline requires awareness. It asks you to pause, breathe, and think about what you want your child to learn. Because shouting or hitting might stop the behavior temporarily, but it doesn't help them understand what went wrong or how to do better next time. In fact, it can damage the trust between you and your child. So the next time your child misbehaves, imagine stepping back for just a moment and asking yourself, why did they behave this way? Often, the answer isn't what we assume. Children rarely act out just to annoy us. More often, they're trying to express something they don't yet have the words for. Maybe they wanted your attention. Maybe they felt frustrated, curious, tired, or overwhelmed. Because they're still learning how to communicate, their behavior becomes their language. When you approach the situation with curiosity instead of anger, you suddenly see your child not as someone who's being difficult, but as someone who needs guidance. Then ask yourself what lesson you want to teach right now. Discipline is not something that starts after the mistake. It's happening all the time. In this moment, do you want to help your child learn responsibility, or patience, or how to manage their emotions? Being clear about the lesson helps you stay calm instead of reacting impulsively. And finally, think about how you can teach in a way your child will actually understand. Their brain is still developing. The parts responsible for decision-making and self-control are under construction. That means they need patient communication. Sometimes they need a simple explanation. Sometimes they need a gentle demonstration. And sometimes, before anything else, they need connection. A moment where they feel seen and understood. This way of responding doesn't just prevent misbehavior. It shapes who your child becomes. It teaches them how to handle their own feelings and choices in healthier ways. Of course, shifting from reacting to responding takes practice. Staying calm when your child is pushing every button you have is hard, sometimes incredibly hard. But when you choose presence over anger, when you choose understanding over punishment, something powerful happens. You grow as a parent, and your child grows with you. Slowly, they begin to develop better behavior, not out of fear, but out of genuine understanding. Discipline and the developing brain. When we talk about discipline, it's important to understand what happens inside a child's brain during those moments. Once you know how the brain works, it becomes much easier to stay committed to calmer, more thoughtful ways of disciplining. The first thing to remember is that a child's brain is constantly changing. Just as their body grows, their brain grows with them. You can imagine the brain as having two main levels. The lower part, located from just beneath the nose down to the neck area, is often referred to as the primitive brain. This part is responsible for basic functions like breathing, blinking, and powerful emotions that burst out without much control. When a child throws a toy because they didn't get what they wanted, that reaction usually comes from this lower impulsive part of the brain. The upper part of the brain is where the more complex abilities live. This is the part that helps us think carefully, manage our emotions, and make thoughtful decisions. But here's the important thing. This upper part takes a very long time to fully develop. It isn't complete until a person is well into their 20s. That means your 8-year-old simply does not have the same ability to plan, remember, or regulate emotions the way an adult can. So when a child forgets their books or makes an impulsive choice, shouting at them isn't going to help. Their brain is still under construction. They're not miniature adults. They're children, still learning, still growing, still figuring out how to make sense of the world. And because of that, they need extra patience, not extra pressure. The second thing to understand is that the brain doesn't just grow. It changes based on experiences. Scientists call this neuroplasticity. It means that every interaction, every lesson, and even every conflict leaves a physical impression on the brain. Researchers have studied violin players, for example, and discovered that the areas of their brain connected to their left hand are especially well developed simply because that hand practices the most. Their brain literally adapts to what they repeatedly do. This same idea applies to parenting. Each time you discipline your child in a calm, thoughtful way, you're helping their brain build healthier patterns. You're shaping their ability to understand emotions, solve problems, and connect with others. But neuroplasticity works both ways. Studies on adults who faced physical or emotional abuse in childhood show that their brains develop differently because of those painful experiences. Many of them struggle with mental health issues later in life. Childhood experiences matter, not just emotionally, but physically inside the brain. The third idea is that the brain is complex, with different parts responsible for different functions. Some areas help us think, some help us feel, and some protect us when we sense danger. Knowing this helps you understand what's really happening when your child has a meltdown in public. If your son is crying and refusing to cooperate, which part of his brain do you want to reach? If you shout at him while you're angry yourself, you're speaking straight to the lower, defensive part of his brain, the part that only knows how to fight, freeze, or run away. He will feel threatened, even if you don't intend to scare him. His body will brace itself. His emotions will rise. He may shout back, hit, or shut down completely. And none of this helps him learn. But if you speak to him from a calmer place, you activate the upper part of his brain. Your presence helps soothe his fear. Your tone helps settle his emotions. And once he feels safe, he becomes capable of listening, understanding, and learning. That's where real discipline happens, not in the heat of fear, but in the space created by connection. The truth is, discipline delivered through anger may work for a moment, but it loses its power over time. It activates the child's internal alarm system, the same system built to protect them in dangerous situations. When that alarm goes off, the child isn't thinking about right or wrong. They're just trying to survive the moment. But when you discipline with calm, you help them build a healthier brain, one that can manage emotions, handle challenges, and grow into a more balanced adult. From tantrums to tranquility, connection is the key. Michael had 2 sons. His older boy, Graham, was 8, and that afternoon he was building a Lego world with his friend James. Sitting nearby was 5-year-old Matthias, who watched them with growing frustration. He felt left out. The older boys thought he was too young to join their complicated building game, and in their minds, they weren't trying to hurt him. They just believed he wouldn't be able to keep up. A few minutes later, Michael heard shouting from the playroom. Voices were rising. Emotions were boiling over, and by the time he reached them, the entire Lego structure had been smashed. Matthias had knocked everything down in anger, and all 3 children were on the verge of tears. It was a mess, emotionally and physically. And in a moment like that, most parents would snap. It would have been easy for Michael to yell at Matthias, to lecture him about ruining the game, to punish him for acting out. But Michael understood that discipline isn't about punishment at all. It's about teaching. And before any lesson could begin, he had to connect with his child. Matthias was still breathing hard, his face red with frustration. His little world had felt unfair and overwhelming. If Michael had chosen anger in that moment, if he had scolded or lectured, Matthias would have shut down completely. He wasn't ready to listen. He was drowning in emotion. So instead of raising his voice, Michael lowered his own energy. He walked over quietly, knelt beside his son, and gently wrapped him in a hug. He rubbed his back, giving him a safe place to calm down. Slowly, Matthias began to melt into that comfort. His breathing settled, his shoulders relaxed, and once he was steady again, Michael helped him find the words for how he felt. He guided him to express his frustration without hurting others. This is the power of connection. A child listens, learns, and grows only when they feel understood. When parents connect first, something remarkable happens. A child who was ready to fight begins to soften. A child who was overwhelmed begins to feel safe. Children can't control emotions the way adults can. Their storms are bigger than their tools. So when they're upset, they don't need a parent's anger. They need a parent's presence. If we respond with more emotion than they can handle, they don't hear the lesson. They only feel the fear or the pressure. But when we acknowledge their feelings, when we say, with our actions, "I'm here with you, I see you, and you matter," their mind shifts from chaos to calm. Only then do they become ready to understand what went wrong and how to do better next time. Connection does something even deeper. It shapes the developing brain. A child learns how to express feelings, how to communicate, and how to show kindness by watching how we treat them. If a parent offers comfort during difficult moments, the child learns to offer comfort in their own relationships later. If the parent models patience and respect, the child learns to do the same. Childhood interactions become the blueprint for adulthood. And as the child grows older and the upper part of the brain matures, connections with their parents help build stronger self-control. They learn not to explode when they're upset. They learn to articulate what they feel instead of acting it out. They learn to pause, think, and respond. But perhaps the most beautiful reason to connect is this. Connection deepens your relationship with your child. It tells them, loudly, even in silence, that your bond matters, not just when things are easy and joyful, but especially in the messy moments, the frustrating moments, the moments when both of you feel tested. Anyone can celebrate their child when they bring home a trophy or perform well in a school play. The real strength of a relationship shows when the child is struggling, when they've made a mistake, or when emotions are too big to handle alone. Being there in those moments sends a message that lasts a lifetime. You are important to me. Our relationship matters. Even when you're at your worst, I'm still here. That message transforms tantrums into teachable moments and chaos into connection. No drama connection in action. Tina and Scott had a 6-year-old son named Harry. One evening, they were waiting for him at the dinner table. It was their daily routine to eat together, and Harry knew that well. But tonight, he wasn't coming downstairs. After calling him a few times with no response, their patience began to fade, and they finally headed up to his room. When they opened the door, they found him curled up with his iPad, completely lost in a game. Their frustration grew instantly. Not only had he ignored dinner time, he had also broken a very clear household rule. The iPad was never supposed to be taken out of its protective case, and he wasn't even supposed to be playing with it at that hour in the first place. Even though anger rose inside them, Tina and Scott took a breath and reminded themselves of the approach they wanted to follow. No drama discipline. Instead of scolding him right away, Tina gently asked what he was doing. The moment Harry saw their faces, guilt washed over him. Tears filled his eyes. He admitted he knew the rule. He knew he shouldn't have taken the iPad out, but he just couldn't resist playing. Strangely, this honesty comforted Tina and Scott. His tears showed that he understood his mistake. He had already released the emotional part of his reaction, the crying, the guilt, the fear of being caught, and now he was ready to hear them. That shift from reacting to receiving is where real discipline becomes possible. So they knelt beside him, letting Harry know they had heard him. They acknowledged how much he loved playing games, how exciting it must have felt in the moment, and then they gently reminded him that he had agreed to follow certain routines, and that routines are important for everyone in the family. Discipline doesn't have to come wrapped in anger or strictness. In fact, the most powerful discipline often comes from a place of calm connection. When you guide your child with warmth, the relationship becomes stronger instead of strained. But how do you achieve that no-drama connection in real life? The first step is approaching your child with calmness. Sometimes words help, and sometimes silence speaks louder. A gentle touch, a hand on the back, a quiet pat on the shoulder, a warm hug can do more to soothe a child than any lecture. Touch releases oxytocin, the feel-good hormone, which lowers stress and makes both you and your child feel safe. In a calmer space, a child becomes far more capable of listening and understanding. Your body language matters too. A tense posture, crossed arms, or a glare can make a child shut down. So take a moment. Breathe. Lower yourself to their level. Kneel if you need to. Soften your expression. And make eye contact that feels kind instead of intimidating. When a child sees calmness on your face, they begin to find calmness within themselves. Another powerful part of connection is validation. Children often misbehave, but underneath that behavior is always a feeling. They need to know that their emotions, not their actions, but their emotions, are understood. Validation doesn't mean you approve of the behavior. It means you acknowledge the feelings behind it. Think of a time you were excited to share something with a friend, and they brushed it off with a quick, okay. You probably felt ignored or unimportant. Children feel exactly the same when their emotions are dismissed. When they're upset, even small things matter deeply to them. If a child is sad because they didn't get the grade they hoped for, they need to hear something like, "I know you tried your best, and I understand why you're disappointed." That single moment of empathy can do more than 100 pieces of advice. Validation is simply saying, "I hear you, I see you, and your feelings make sense." And after validating, it's essential to listen, truly listen. Adults often jump into problem solving with explanations and logic. But logic rarely works when a child is overwhelmed. Their brain is still developing, and when emotions are high, the logical part of their mind is practically offline. The best thing you can do is create a quiet space for them to speak. Listen, not to correct, but to understand. Let your silence show that their words matter. Finally, reflect back what you've heard. This tells your child that their voice has value. Some parents worry that giving attention to emotions might spoil their child, but this is a misunderstanding. Attention isn't a reward for bad behavior. It's a human need. Children who feel seen don't need to act out to be noticed. They grow into adults who can regulate emotions, empathize with others, and build healthy relationships. The beauty of no-drama discipline is that it teaches children without hurting the bond you share. Through connection, patience, and presence, you're not just correcting a moment. You're shaping the kind of person your child will become. 1, 2, 3. Discipline. Redirecting for today and tomorrow. At the heart of discipline lies one simple idea: redirection. Whenever a child makes a mistake or behaves in a way their parents don't want, the goal is not to punish them, but to gently guide them toward a healthier direction. Redirecting means offering a new path, turning their attention from the wrong choice to the right one. Think of it like steering, helping your child move toward better habits, step by step. Parents face this every day. A child refuses to go to bed on time. Another pushes away their vegetables at dinner. Sometimes kids dig in their heels with such determination that it tests every ounce of patience a parent has. That's where the idea of 1, 2, 3 discipline becomes so valuable. It's the art of responding with calm teaching instead of reactive frustration. Because discipline isn't about punishment. It's about helping a child learn. This belief makes discipline not just more effective, but more meaningful. Jennifer understood this well the day her young daughter, Anna, surprised her with a tough parenting moment. They were at the grocery store together when Anna spotted a pack of colorful crayons. She begged her mother to buy them, but Jennifer gently said no. Anna didn't argue much, and they continued shopping. But when they reached home, Jennifer noticed something unusual. Anna had slipped the crayons into her pocket. She had taken them without paying. In a moment like that, most parents would explode. Jennifer could have yelled, punished, or shamed her. But she knew this was a teaching moment, a chance to guide Anna, not scare her. So she kneeled down and calmly asked what was in her pocket. It was a turning point. Instead of feeling terrified of her mother's anger, Anna's attention shifted to the action itself. She had taken something that wasn't hers. That gentle redirection allowed them to have an honest and important conversation about honesty, choice, and responsibility. Instead of fear, the moment became a lesson. Redirection works best when two simple principles are followed. The first is patience. A child who has just made a mistake is usually full of emotion, anger, frustration, embarrassment, fear. In that moment, their feelings are louder than your words. Their mind isn't ready to understand logic or lessons. They need time to calm down. So before teaching comes connection. Only when a child feels seen and soothed will their brain open to learning. The second principle is consistency. For no drama discipline to work, it can't be something parents use only on good days or when they're in the right mood. Children feel safest when they know what to expect. If you handle one mistake gently but explode at another, the inconsistency confuses them and weakens your connection. But when you respond with steady calmness, every time, they begin to trust the process. They know you'll talk to them, guide them, and help them understand. That trust builds emotional security, and over time, that security turns small lessons into lifelong values. Redirection, then, isn't just about the moment in front of you. It's about shaping the child your little one will grow into today, tomorrow, and years from now. Conclusion. So, let's bring everything together. Throughout this journey, you've discovered that disciplining a child has nothing to do with punishment or harsh reactions. Discipline is not about making a child afraid. It's about giving them a chance to learn. Every mistake, every outburst, every conflict can be handled with calmness, patience, and the right intention. Before reacting, a parent only needs to pause and ask themselves 3 simple but powerful questions. Why did my child behave this way? What lesson do I want to teach right now? And how can I teach it in the most effective, loving way? These questions shift discipline from anger to understanding, from frustration to guidance. You also learned how deeply discipline affects a child's brain. A child's brain is constantly growing, constantly reshaping itself. It is flexible, sensitive, and beautifully moldable. Every interaction, every moment of connection or disconnection helps shape the adult your child will one day become. With awareness and love, you can help their developing brain grow stronger, calmer, and more resilient. You saw how essential connection is, how a simple moment of presence, a gentle tone, or a warm hug can change everything. When children feel seen and understood, their defenses melt, their minds open, and suddenly they are ready to listen, ready to learn, ready to grow. You also explored the no-drama discipline approach. It teaches you to offer comfort first, validate their emotions, listen deeply, and then reflect on what you've heard. These 4 steps create a safe, emotional space where real learning can happen. They help your child calm down, understand themselves better, and build trust in you. Parenting is a lifelong role. There are no breaks, no holidays, and no perfect guidebook. There will be days when you feel overwhelmed, days when you doubt yourself, days when you wonder if you're doing anything right. That's a part of the journey. And it's okay. But when you start applying the ideas from no-drama discipline, when you choose connection over chaos, teaching over punishment, you slowly make parenting a little less stressful and a lot more meaningful. No parent is perfect, and no one needs to be. What your child needs most is not perfection, but presence. And with these tools, with this mindset, you can become exactly the parent your child needs: calm, compassionate, and deeply connected. Thank you for listening to this audiobook summary. I hope these ideas inspire you to create a calmer, kinder, and more connected approach to parenting. If something in this summary spoke to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences, your challenges, or even one thing you plan to try with your child. Your story might help another parent who's going through the very same struggle. If you think this video could support a friend or family member, please consider sharing it with them. Every comment, like, and share helps this channel reach more people who want to learn, grow, and build healthier families through the wisdom of great books, just like you. Your support truly matters and helps the YouTube algorithm recommend these summaries to a wider audience. Thank you once again for being a part of Audiobook 101. Keep connecting, keep learning, and remember, there's no such thing as a perfect parent, only a present one. I'll see you in the next summary.